Look down at your legs for just a second. Not your shoes, not your socks, your legs. The same legs that carried you through decades of work, raising a family, standing in kitchens, walking down hospital hallways when someone you loved needed you. Now be honest with yourself for a moment. Do they feel the way they did 10 years ago? Or do they feel a little colder, a little heavier, just a beat slower to respond when you stand up from the couch? If that sounds familiar, stay with me for the next 20 minutes, because what I'm about to walk you through might explain more about that feeling than anything your last checkup covered. Hi, and welcome back. This channel is a simple place for honest, practical health information for people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. No scare tactics, no miracle promises, just things worth knowing and worth talking over with your own doctor. If you're new here, glad you found us. If you're back again, thank you for that. Today we're talking about something that doesn't get nearly enough attention: the connection between what's on your plate and how well blood actually reaches your legs and feet. Poor circulation in the legs is something a lot of people quietly assume is just aging. Cold feet, tired legs by afternoon, a heaviness that wasn't there before. But here's something worth sitting with. Circulation trouble doesn't usually start in your heart. It starts much smaller than that, in the tiniest blood vessels buried deep in your calves and thighs. Vessels so small, you need a microscope to really see them. And several nutrients play a direct, well-documented role in whether those tiny vessels stay open, flexible, and doing their job. Stick with me, because by the time we get to the last one on this list, you'll understand exactly why it tends to matter more than people expect. Why circulation quietly fades with age. Here's the piece almost nobody explains clearly. Your circulatory system depends on something called the endothelium. Think of it as the smooth, slick inner lining of every blood vessel in your body, from the largest artery near your heart down to the smallest capillary in your big toe. When that lining is healthy, blood glides through easily. When it gets stiff, inflamed, or damaged over the years, blood flow slows down, especially in the parts of your body furthest from your heart, which unfortunately means your legs and feet feel it first. Several vitamins and minerals play a direct role in keeping that lining healthy, keeping your vessels flexible, and helping your body produce the chemical signals that tell blood vessels to relax and open up. None of them are exotic. None of them require a prescription. And what's interesting is how often people are quietly falling short on more than one of them at the same time without it, simply because appetite changes, digestion changes, and absorption changes as we get older. So let's walk through them together, one at a time, starting with the ones that lay the groundwork and building toward the two that tend to make the biggest practical difference for most people. And stay with me for that last one, because it's connected to something your body actually stops making as efficiently once you pass a certain age. And that detail alone explains a lot. Vitamin E, the quiet protector. Most people think of vitamin E as something for skin or hair, but inside your blood vessels, it plays a very different role. Vitamin E is what's known as an antioxidant, which simply means it helps protect cells from a kind of everyday wear and tear caused by unstable molecules floating around your bloodstream. Applied to your blood vessels, that protection helps keep the vessel lining smooth and less prone to the kind of damage that narrows vessels over time. You'll find vitamin E naturally in almonds, sunflower seeds, and plant oils like wheat germ oil. One detail worth knowing: vitamin E is fat soluble, meaning your body needs some dietary fat present to actually absorb it properly. So pairing a handful of almonds with something like avocado or olive oil isn't just a flavor choice. It genuinely helps your body use what you're eating. If you're considering a supplement, that's a conversation worth having with your doctor or pharmacist, since the right form and dose can vary quite a bit from person to person, especially if you're on blood thinners, where vitamin E can matter more than people expect. Vitamin C, the vessel's scaffolding. Next, vitamin C. And its role here is more structural than people realize. Your blood vessel walls rely on a protein called collagen to stay strong and hold their shape, almost the way rebar gives structure to concrete. Your body can't produce collagen properly without vitamin C. Without enough of it over time, vessel walls can become a little weaker and less able to handle the constant pressure of blood being pumped through them day after day, especially in the legs, where vessels are working against gravity to send blood back up toward the heart. Vitamin C is water soluble, which means your body doesn't store it the way it stores some other vitamins. You really do need a steady supply throughout your week, not just an occasional dose. Citrus fruit, bell peppers, strawberries, and broccoli are all reliable sources. It's one of the easier nutrients to get consistently from food, which is genuinely good news. Magnesium, the relaxation mineral. Here's one that surprises people. Magnesium plays a direct role in helping the muscle layer inside your blood vessel walls relax. When that muscle layer is too tense or tight, vessels narrow, and blood has a harder time moving through. A bit like squeezing a garden hose. Magnesium levels are adequate, that muscle layer can relax more easily, which supports smoother, more consistent blood flow. Leafy greens, nuts, seeds, and whole grains are solid sources. Magnesium is also one of those nutrients that tends to run low in people who take certain common medications. So if you're on a long-term prescription for blood pressure or acid reflux, for example, it's worth asking your doctor whether your magnesium levels have ever actually been checked. A lot of people go years without that simple conversation. Omega-3s, not a vitamin, but worth knowing. Technically not a vitamin, but it belongs in this conversation. Omega-3 fatty acids found in fatty fish like salmon and sardines, as well as in walnuts and flaxseed, support the flexibility of blood vessel walls and help the body manage inflammation more efficiently. Chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the quieter contributors to stiffening blood vessels over the years, and omega-3s are one of the more well-studied tools for helping keep that inflammation in check. Even a couple of servings of fatty fish a week can make a meaningful difference for a lot of people. Vitamin K2, the traffic director. This one doesn't get talked about nearly enough. Vitamin K2 helps direct calcium to where it actually belongs, your bones, instead of letting it settle where it shouldn't, like along artery walls. Calcium buildup in vessel walls is part of what makes arteries stiffer with age. So K2's role as a kind of traffic director for calcium is genuinely important, even though it rarely gets mentioned outside of specialist circles. You'll find K2 in fermented foods, certain aged cheeses, and to a lesser degree in egg yolks and dark chicken meat. It's fat soluble as well, so like vitamin E, it's best absorbed alongside a meal that includes some healthy fat. Vitamin D3, more hormone than vitamin. Now we get to the two that tend to make the biggest practical difference for most people, starting with vitamin D3. Despite the name, D3 behaves less like a typical vitamin and more like a hormone. It's involved in an enormous number of processes throughout the body, including the ones that regulate how blood vessels function. Your vessel walls actually contain receptors for vitamin D, and when those receptors are activated, they support the production of a molecule that helps vessels relax and open, which again means easier blood flow right down to your smallest capillaries. Here's the part that matters most for anyone watching this over 60 or 70. Your skin becomes noticeably less efficient at producing vitamin D from sunlight as you age. That's simply a fact of aging skin, not a personal failing. And it means a lot of older adults are running low on D without any obvious symptom pointing to it. A simple blood test and it's genuinely one of the more useful things to ask your doctor about at your next visit, especially before winter when sun exposure naturally drops. If a doctor does recommend supplementing, they'll typically guide the dose based on your actual blood levels rather than a one-size-fits-all number, which is exactly how it should be handled, since too much of a fat-soluble vitamin like D can cause its own problems over time. Fatty fish, egg yolks, and fortified foods offer some dietary D3, but for most older adults, food alone doesn't fully close the gap, which is part of why this is worth an honest conversation with your physician rather than guesswork. Vitamin B12, the one people miss without realizing it. And now the one that tends to surprise people the most, vitamin B12. Here's why it matters so directly for circulation. B12 is essential for producing healthy red blood cells. the very cells responsible for carrying oxygen through your bloodstream and out to your legs. It also plays a role in keeping the nerves that help control your blood vessels functioning properly. And it helps keep a compound called homocysteine at healthy levels, since elevated homocysteine has been linked to vessel wall damage over time. Here's the part that catches so many people off guard. As you get older, your stomach naturally produces less of the acid and a substance called intrinsic factor, both of which your body needs to properly absorb B12 from food. That means it's entirely possible to eat plenty of B12-rich foods, meat, eggs, dairy, and still end up running low simply because your digestive system isn't pulling it out of your food as efficiently as it used to. This is genuinely common after 60, and it's one of the more overlooked nutrient gaps in older adults. The symptoms of low B12 can look a lot like ordinary getting older. Tingling or numbness in the feet, a sense of unsteadiness, fatigue, legs that just feel heavier than they should. Because those symptoms overlap so much with general aging, low B12 often goes unrecognized for a long time. The good news is that it's simple to check with a basic blood test, and if levels are low, it's very treatable, whether through diet, oral supplements, or in some cases, a different delivery method your doctor might recommend if absorption through the stomach is the issue. Why this matters more than it might seem. Here's the honest truth behind everything we just covered. None of these nutrients work in isolation, and none of them are a magic fix on their own. What they represent together is a kind of quiet infrastructure, supporting the vessel walls, supporting the flexibility, supporting the oxygen delivery that your legs depend on every single day, often without you ever thinking about it until something starts to feel off. I think of a woman I heard about once in her late 70s who chalked up her cold feet and tired legs to simply getting older for years. It wasn't until a routine blood panel flagged a B12 deficiency that anyone connected the dots. A few months of proper treatment later, she described her legs as feeling like they belonged to her again. Not younger exactly, just present, responsive, hers. That's really what this whole conversation is about. Not chasing youth, just giving your body the raw materials it actually needs to keep doing its job well. What you can actually do with this. So where do you go from here? Honestly, the most useful first step isn't buying a cabinet full of supplements. It's asking your doctor for a basic blood panel that checks vitamin D, B12, and magnesium, 3 of the more commonly low nutrients in adults over 60, and 3 of the easiest to test for. From there, you and your doctor can decide together what, if anything, needs correcting, and at what dose, based on your actual numbers and your other medications. That's a far safer, far more effective approach than guessing at supplement amounts from a video, mine included. In the meantime, small food choices genuinely add up. A handful of almonds with your afternoon snack, salmon or sardines once or twice a week, leafy greens at dinner, a piece of fruit instead of skipping vitamin C for days at a time. None of it needs to be dramatic. It just needs to be consistent because your body responds to steady patterns far more than to occasional bursts of effort. Before we wrap up, if this gave you something worth thinking about or worth bringing up at your next doctor's visit, I'd really appreciate a quick tap on the like button. It helps this information reach other people who might be quietly wondering about the same thing. And if you'd like more honest, practical health conversations like this one, sticking around and subscribing means you won't miss what's coming next. I read the comments, so if you've had your own experience with any of this, I genuinely love to hear about it below. So let's bring it all together. Circulation in your legs isn't something that simply fades with age out of nowhere. It's shaped in part by nutrients your body needs steadily and consistently, especially as digestion and sun exposure change over the years. Vitamin E and C support the strength and protection of your vessel walls. Magnesium and omega-3s support flexibility and calm inflammation. K2 helps keep calcium where it belongs, and D3 and B12, the 2 most commonly overlooked, play an outsized role in oxygen delivery and vessel function. One simple action you can take today: Book a basic blood panel with your doctor and ask specifically about your vitamin D and B12 levels. That single conversation could tell you more about your legs than a year of guessing ever could. Take care of yourself.